महेश्वरः गुरुर्देव परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. So, in response, when the teacher said that, when the student tells the teacher, I think I know it well now, the teacher told, I don't think you have understood you have not known it. So the student, he thinks he's smart. So he says, Naham manye suvedeti, no na vedeti vedacha, no nas yo nastad veda tad veda, no na vedeti vedacha. Suddenly, in that moment, when the student said that I know it well, and the teacher says, no, because you made that statement, I think you have not ascertained what the truth is. The student immediately goes and reflects where he has been going wrong. And he comes with this statement. He says, I do not think that I know it well, but that I do not know, I know too. I do not think that I know it well, but I also know that I don't know. Who amongst us comprehends it both as the not known and as the known? He comprehends it, means he who knows it. So suddenly he has come up with a language of contradiction to the teacher out of his self-reflection, because that little bit fine-tuning was required, and that's why the teacher said that, let me see where you are at, and he says, I think I know it well, so teacher. And with a little bit of reflection, the student comes. And this is how a teacher is able to conclude whether the student knows or doesn't know. Silence, if the student remains silent, it can be two types. It can be out of not wanting to express, it can be out of ignorance. Ignorance also leads to silence. Every night we go into silence to sleep. Then how does teacher come to know? Just now when we are talking, that's what I was saying. She said, I don't know. I know, I don't know. I said, stop, you are there. Because of this contradiction within the mind, that mind knows it also because it is your essential nature. You cannot deny it. You are what you are. And also knowing the opposite side, that this mind, which is habituated with objectifying everything, cannot objectify its source. And who's speaking this? The mind is speaking it. So the mind knows that it is functioning because of some higher power, which it cannot eliminate. And therefore it can never say, I know. But also it cannot say, I don't know, because it is its nature. The self cannot be denied. And therefore this contradictory language comes about. Yasya matam tasya matam matam yasya na vedasaha avijñātam vijānatam vijñātam avijānatam. He understands it who comprehends it not, and he understands it not who feels he has comprehended it. It is the unknown to the master of true knowledge, but to the ignorant it is the known. See this statement, it is the unknown to the master of true knowledge, but to the ignorant it is the known. So only ignorant people say that I think I have got it. That means I am very clear now, I know who am I. They are the ignorant ones. A master, he will not say anything. He will speak. Sometimes he says, yes, I know it. Sometimes he says, I don't know it. And he leaves it to you to put him into a category of a stupid person or put him into a category of a realized master. You see the Avadhutas, you see Shirdi Sai Baba, you see Nityanand Maharaj, you see Ramana Maharishi. In their earlier, when they were not known to people, majority of the people took them to be just idiots, walking around naked. But then someone comes along who recognizes what their true worth is. I've got a movie called Gajanan Maharaj. He was a great saint in Maharashtra. And in one house, Satyanarayan Puja was going on. Satyanarayan Puja is the Lord Vishnu's puja. And after that, people were eating food, just like we do in Janmashtami. And the plates they use even today is not the steel plates or the crockery plates. They use the big leaves, and they, with toothpicks they put them together, and on that the food is served. And then after the food is finished, that leaf is also thrown, and whatever is there in the plate, that is also thrown. Everything goes back to the dust. It becomes manure for the soil. Recyclable, continuous recycling. So this food plates that were coming out and being dumped in one corner, one madman was sitting there, and one dog was there, and he was taking little bit from that, the leftovers. He was taking that, and he was feeding some to the dog and putting some into his mouth. And then one person came, the host there, he looked, and he came to him, he saw him eating, he says, go and give him some food. And he's still watching. What a disgrace to be a human being. He's eating like a dog from that rubbish heap. And he says, hey Baba, come, I'll give you some food. He says, what food can you give me? Lord provides me food. He says, this dirty food. No, this is prasad. And then immediately there was a gutter flowing by, and he put his hand in there to take the water to drink. He says, don't take that. This is all dirty. He says, what dirty? When he picked it up, the man is seeing that it is dirty water. But before it touched his lips, it became Ganga, pure crystal water. And he drank it. And then this fellow vanished. He goes in to bring some food for him, and this fellow vanishes. And then again somewhere in the temple, the Bhagavad, some lecture like this was going on, and this fellow was talking about this and talking, throwing high ones, bouncers. And people were saying, oh, what a intellectual, what a great mind he is. But he didn't know himself what he was talking about. But he was just quoting left, right, center from all different things, and this fellow was standing outside, this madman. And he says, whom are you trying to fool? Outside he says. Are you trying to fool the people who are already fools? Or are you trying to fool yourself? That you know everything and you know you don't know it. Is that the meaning of that verse? And he told the meaning of the verse there. This fellow suddenly gets a shock of his life and searches his. By the time he comes out, this fellow has vanished. And then he goes around and around. Have you seen this person? Have you seen this person? Have you seen this person? And eventually he finds him. For so many years, 30, 40 years, this madman was considered as a madman by the society. He was living amongst them, eating from the garbage, drinking from the gutters, living with the dogs, having no place to sleep, clothes always dirty. But when he was discovered, that same madman, he continued to remain mad. But suddenly people started seeing, no, he's not mad. There is something about this fellow. Something divine. Something different. Something extraordinary. Something wondrous. And as that wondrousness was discovered, that he's not what he seems to be. Don't go on the outside. Just don't look at his dirty clothes. Don't look at where he sleeps. Don't look at whom that he keeps the company of the dogs. He's something more. Why? Now their attention was not on the outside. Now the attention was what he was within. Suddenly they started coming to him, one after the other, one after the other. A lotus grows in the dirty waters but is not touched by dirty waters. And it doesn't have to go. It is beautiful as it is. The bees come to it. A master doesn't have to go anywhere. We try to use things from the world, we want to use objects from the world, we want to use conditionings that we consider ourselves to be in order to reach the self that we already are. It is not going to be possible. Impossible. You have to come to this conclusion that all the means that we use to come to the truth have to be given up one by one by one by one. You may use first, going to the temple as one means to purify your mind, but it has to be given up. And then replace it with taking the name of the Lord. Then you don't have to go to a temple. Then taking the name of the Lord has to be replaced by contemplation on the Lord. And this way you make your seeking, your sadhana, finer and finer and finer, until you come to this witnessing principle. And here the teacher says, he who understands it, who comprehends it not. So if you have come to a conclusion that I have understood, you have not understood. And and those who don't speak about that they have understood, they have known. And in this way, the Mother Shruti, that is the Upanishads, is telling this for the benefit of the students, that don't get caught up into some imagination in your head that you have come to know. Someone was telling that I experience bliss. I have also experienced. We have these thrills going through our body when we are on the seat of meditation. Sometimes there is emptiness, and in that emptiness, extreme joy, unparalleled joy is experienced. You don't know from where it has come, but it is experienced. Just like a mother experiences the joy when the child is in her arms, isn't it? You also experience it on the seat, but that is not realization because you are experiencing it. There is an experiencer, and the experienced is that bliss, the waves of bliss that are taking you over. At that time, have the courage, rather than indulging in that bliss, have the courage, have the guts to discard that bliss. And how do you discard that bliss? By not identifying with it. Then what do you identify with? Seek. Who is experiencing this? I am experiencing this. So who am I? Move back to the conscious principle. We have to discard, give up, let go every experience of any sort that happens in our life or on the seat of meditation. We can hear, according to Yoga Sutra, you can hear sounds, you can have, I know someone who lives with me, every day he had some satsang with me and he says, Swamiji, I don't know, I'm not saying it's because of me or anything, but every time he has a day off, he comes and spends 2-3 hours with me and he will not let me go to sleep. First he starts with his sales, then he comes to his how his sadhana is important, and slowly it moves towards the truth. And then next morning, invariably, every time after the satsang, he says, this weekend when it passed away, the last one, I met him Thursday because he's working during the week. So Thursday he comes, he has a day off, Thursday, Friday. So suddenly he called, Swamiji, do you have 5 minutes? I said, okay. 5 minutes, his 5 minutes means 5 hours gone. So I have to be very careful when I say I have 5 minutes for him. So because I know my next 2-3 hours, 4 hours are gone. And then he says, no, I want to tell you something. I said, what? No, come to my room. I said, okay, let's go. And when he says, in this week, that last time we had satsang, from that day, every day, the 10 commandments are being revealed to me in my sleep. Muhammad is coming. And then yesterday, And then that day he spoke. And the next morning, last Friday he caught me. He said, today Jesus came. And crystal clear. And he said, this is what he said. He's as if we are talking to each other, he is talking to them. This is what is happening. I said, nothing, you just enjoy. You find out who is the one who's observing all this. That's all. Otherwise you get caught up and then you become a trance specialist who can access all these. Very important. All these things will happen. Masters will come. Masters you have known and not known. From China, from Arabia, from India, from Tibet. They seek you out because they are seeing, here is one person who is committed to the truth. Let's go and help him. Let's give him that extra shove. Let's go and bless him. We want to see who is this person who is committed to know himself. So they will come. And they will not come one by one. They will come, the whole crowd comes together sometimes. Now, why only the masters come? Gods come. Krishna, Rama, Indra, this, that, everyone comes. They want to give you blessings. But here is one person. Sometimes there is jealousy also. How come this fellow is coming where we are going? But most of them come for blessings. Gods are jealous, not the masters. And they come of their own accord. The flower doesn't say, bees please come, take nectar. It just is who it is. Bees come automatically. A happy person is just as happy. People seek out a happy person's company, isn't it? He doesn't have to say, hey, I am happy, please come with me. Because I am a worthy person to be with. A happy person never says that. Same thing with the realized master. He is just who he is. So, come to know, the student is being told that do not objectify. You cannot put it in words what this reality is. Here, a Chinese philosopher says, it is only when you hunt for it that you lose it. You cannot take hold of it, but equally you cannot get rid of it. And while you can do neither, it goes on its own way. Yet you remain silent and it speaks. You speak and it is dumb. And in this way, the same, who is this? It is Yung Chia Shi, the Chinese philosopher. I don't know who, I never heard of him, but Swamiji has suggested. You must have read him. The same language he is speaking, what the Kena Upanishad is speaking. Remain silent, it will reveal itself. Now, for enumerating this point, that when you seek it, it runs away. When you try to hold it, it eludes you. You remain silent if you have the fearlessness, if you have the guts, if you have the commitment to remain in that silence and with faith that it will reveal itself, then it will happen. For that one story comes that I'll tell you now. Just one more verse is there and then the story begins. Pratibodha viditam matam amrutatvam hi vindate atmana vindate viryam vidyaya vindate mrutam. Indeed, he attains immortality who intuits it in and through every modification of the mind. Through the Atman, Atman he obtains real strength, and through knowledge, immortality. Yesterday, while we were having dinner, I told you something that it is a secret, don't share it with anyone. Isn't it? Remember? You have forgotten. I remember. After dinner, when we are having the cake slice. Initially, we have to know the truth as the conscious principle within. But her question was, do we have to sit in meditation only? Yes, initially we have to. Otherwise, you will not be able to catch because the mind is so active. But then what happens afterwards? Where can you catch the reality? In every experience, you can catch the reality. In every thought, you can catch the reality. In every emotion, you can catch the reality. In every interaction, you can catch the reality. In every event, you can catch the reality. Because reality is the only thing. So right now, while I am talking to you, talking is going on. Let the mouth speak. You be aware. Let the ears hear. You put the attention on the conscious principle because of whom hearing is possible. It's a continuous dance. That's the dance of Shiva. It's a continuous dance where you are not getting attached to what you are hearing and you are aware of that because of whom hearing is taking place. If you give too much importance to the words, then we try to work out what these words mean. No, just have the faith, have the intuition. Intuition will also experience in a person in whom too much logic is not there. Intuition comes where understanding and faith, both of them marry together. And such an intuitive mind alone can apprehend the reality. And that is what is being told here, that if such a person alone attains immortality. And understand when they say that he obtains real strength through the knowledge and immortality. The strength that we get in our life, the strength to think, the strength to ideate, the physical strength, the strength of, I don't catch any disease, I don't find any problem in facing any challenges in life, nothing is impossible for me, I can do it, you give me a job and it is done. That strength, don't think that you have that strength, that I can do it, there's no I, it is because of that guiding principle. It is because that strength is because of that illuminating principle. Muscles do not have strength because muscle is strong. Muscle is having strength because life force is expressing behind that muscle. That is why. And that was how this whole text began. That eyes, the sight is possible through the eyes because of the reality behind. The hearing is possible because behind the ear because of the reality behind. So this way, come to this conclusion in your life that everything that is happening in your life is only because of that one principle, and that one principle is not one per person, it is one without a second. That alone is inside, outside, everywhere. Then if it is inside, outside, everywhere, how do I catch? Because infinite cannot be caught. Infinity cannot be conceptualized. Then how do you catch it? Catch it in every experience. Catch it in every thought. Catch it in every emotion. That is where you have to catch. For that you have to slow down your mind. For that you have to practice meditation. I am going backwards. For coming to meditation, you have to slow down your activity. To slow down your activity, you have to live your life properly out there in the world. So that no misgivings, no unfinished businesses are left. When you do your job properly, you carry out your duties properly, you do the actions, whatever has to be done, you do it to the best of your ability without expecting any result, automatically your body, when it comes to the seat of meditation, is able to come and sit for half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour, and is there available in silence so that you can go further deeper into your personality. And in this manner, iha ched veditaha satyamasti न चेदिहावेदिन महति विनष्टिः भूतेषु भूतेषु विचित्य धीराः प्रेत्यास्मान लोकाद अमृता bhavanti. If one knows that Brahman here in this world, then the true end of all human aspirations is gained. If one knows not here, great is the destruction. The wise, seeing the one Atman in all beings, rise from sense life and become immortal. Immortality is not after death. Immortality is recognizing your essential nature while living. And what will happen if you don't recognize it in this time? I'll tell you, then you decide. You will again, one man and woman will come together. Then again you will be that one teeny meeny zygote. You will be there for 9 months in that placenta, drinking inside, outside, covered in that muck. And then somewhere after 9 months you will be thrown out of the worst place that you can think of. And then again you are at the mercy of the total world for a few years. Then slowly you grow up. And then 20, 25, nowadays 30 years you have to spend trying to relearn everything that you knew in your previous life. Without any guarantee that you will come to know or not. Maybe you fall again in the same trap, and again life, and again. My God, again you want to go through all that. With all the problems and difficulties and relearning this knowledge all over again, recognizing this knowledge all over again, rediscovering this knowledge all over again. It is there within us, in the ignorant as well as in the wise. But it takes us so many years to come to that. Because we don't know what things are lurking in our mind which come as obstacles when we are living. In this life and other life. Lucky we have come to know it now. We are exposed to this knowledge now. We have overcome all those different obstacles at whatever age you are. But you have come to that point where this knowledge is being presented to you and you are available to it. Only thing is application is required. To rediscover the whole process all over again in the next life. My God, I don't want to. So recognize. A person who recognizes this in this lifetime, he attains immortality. And immortality is not that, oh, now I'm going to apply and then I'll become immortal. Swamiji, next time when you come, I'll be realized. No. It is here and now. Right now. Either you know yourself or you don't. And if you say, I don't know, that is not true. We have already gone and said, we have already seen in the text. And if you say, I have come to know, again you are getting caught up in the mind somewhere. Just accept it. Now this part is this idea is being presented to us through a story. See that story? This story is about the goodies and the baddies. Just like the war of Mahabharata was there, where the Kaurava army was against the good people, the Pandavas, the 5 brothers. Here it is between the Devas, the gods and the demons. And the gods have defeated the demons. And they have got an arrogance that we have defeated the demons. Indra Bhagavan ki jai. Indra is the mind, the potential in the mind, the power, the deity of the mind. I'll give you a few words. The fire is the power behind the speech. The air is the power because of which you are able to smell, because air carries the smell here and there, and it flows throughout this space without any obstruction. The power of wind is greater than power of water, power of destruction. in the wind power is more than fire, water, and anything else. So it's the most powerful within the physical universe. So all these abilities are there within us, potentials, because the total air is represented within our nostrils. The total fire is expressing as the fire in our throat, which expresses as speech, because when you speak, you start sweating after some time. So these gods, they came together and they were having a party with some wine and schnapps and what is that, hagebuttente and cherry tea and coffees and slices and food, and we did it, we are great, man. And all the other demigod, all the other small gods who were not as powerful as the wind god and the fire god and the mind god, they were saying, "Ah, you are really great." And when someone praises you, "Yes, I am, I did it." And while they were praising themselves with no end, at that time, suddenly, the heaven, it doesn't have walls. It is open space. Anyway, you imagine your heaven. This is my imagination of my mind. Whatever the heaven is, suddenly there they heard a sound, a voice. And that sound sounded familiar. It was very sweet. And yet they wanted to say, and that sound was saying, "You arrogant fools, you think you have won because you have won the war against the demons. It is because of me whom you have won the war." Who is this fellow who is challenging us? Is it another demon? So everyone said, hey, fire, you can, just in a minute you can turn into ashes anything that is there in this creation. So you please go. And in that arrogance that I can burn anything, the fire goes. When he goes out, he sees a beautiful person. His name is Yaksha. And he says, Yaksha asks, "Who are you?" He says, "I am fire. I am that because of, and I can cause great destruction. Everyone is afraid of me. Therefore they respect me. And I can destroy this whole, because once the creation there was fire and the whole creation was destroyed. In all scriptures, that story is there. Last time was the water deluge, before was the fire. He said, "I can destroy." He said, I don't want you to destroy the whole creation. I don't want that. I just want you to destroy this blade of grass. Because this Yaksha, who is this fellow? He is the infinite. And he, out of the compassion for all other gods, he wants to bring their arrogance down, so that they recognize that the reality about their victory is not because of their strength, it is because of some higher being. So he says, "I don't want you to destroy the whole creation, just burn this blade of grass." And the fire took all the power that it had and it poured fire on that blade of grass. But the blade of grass was as fresh as ever. And in the end, out of fear that it had come across a greater challenge that it had ever faced, it ran back to the assembly and said, "Arey, I don't know who is this fellow here. I don't know. He told me to burn a blade of grass and I couldn't burn it." The air god said, the wind god, "I knew you can't do it. It's only because of me we won the war." You wait here. And then everyone was, when someone is like this, all the other fellows, "I think you are the greatest. Fire is nothing." Suddenly they take the side. And he went. He says, "I will, you wait, I am coming back in 2 minutes." What can this fire do? Unwanted, just he keeps boasting and he can't do anything. But he is doing the same thing. He is also boasting and he goes there. Immediately when he sees the Yaksha. So from Agni what did we learn? The fire was the potential behind our speech. Because without fire element, speech is not possible. So the fire could not burn the blade of grass. If taken philosophically, speech cannot reach the truth. See the import behind the story? Now the wind goes and the Yaksha Maharaj asks, "Oh, who are you?" "I am the wind god." "Introduce yourself." And everyone likes to introduce themselves. "I am the wind god. I have got free access on this planet, in the space. Nothing can obstruct me. I can lift heavier than heaviest things and topple them over. Nothing can stay in my way. I have total power over everything. Without me, human beings die. Without me, animals die. Without me, plants die. Without me, the creation cannot be the way you experience it right now." He says, "Really? You are that powerful, man. You are really great." Little bit pumping. And he says, yes, I am great." He says, "Okay. I don't want you to destroy anything. I just want you to..." Because what does the speech, what air does? Air has another quality. It dries things very quickly and finishes them off, isn't it? So he says, "Please, destroy this." And the wind tried this way, that way, to typhoons, cyclones, everything it tried. Nothing happened to that blade of grass. And after doing everything, it got exhausted. And when it got exhausted, oh my God! Have you ever done pranayam? If you do it for half an hour, see what happens to you. How long I have to do for the rest of my life? My God, there must be some easier way. You do. How long can you do like that? After some time, my God, this is, Same thing with this wind. It tried everything. And that blade of grass was as it was. Absolutely fresh, not even a scratch on it. In the fear that it was against a greater adversary, this fellow also ran back. "I don't know, are some great personalities there. It asked me to destroy the blade of grass and I could not." Then all the others, "You also boasting for nothing." So they both went, the fire and air, they both went with great expectation, great confidence, but it was a false one. Only to come back ashamed, only to come back with their ego crushed. Now who's the boss? The boss is the king. The king is the mind. Then everyone says, "Now, you go. We have to find out who this, otherwise another challenge." He says, "Yes, I will go." But he has already seen that these fellows have come back. And he goes. See, the fire saw something, isn't it? And it saw the blade of grass. Excuse me. The wind also saw, wind god also saw. But when the mind god went, he had a glimpse, and before he could speak the word as to who are you and this and that, immediately the door was closed and that divine person vanished along with the blade of grass. He vanished. The difference between the ability of the mind and the ability of the fire or the wind is this. The mind, the king of the mind, the god of the mind, he did not come back to his abode. He waited there. He says, if the fire and the air have not been able to destroy this fellow, he must have been someone great. strength must be respected. This is the dialogue that is going on in his mind. Strength must be respected. So he stands there. Right? Just now you were there and now you have vanished. Why you don't want to give me your darshan? Why don't you want to reveal yourself to me? And he waits. And he waits. From that point, that spot in that empty space where that divine being was expressing himself to the fire and the air, and where the God of the mind also saw him, only for a fraction of a second. But the moment he opened his mouth, he vanished. So this God of the mind, he waited, with faith, with this understanding that this person is much greater than me because he has the ability to do what he is doing. So it must be something greater. And there is only one greater than me. The mind knows. Oh Lord, please come and reveal yourself. I am your disciple. I am your devotee. And he keeps waiting there, single-pointedly. And as he is waiting, the Lord also sees how much he is committed. Like one person, one teacher was giving a lecture somewhere, and he came out after the lecture, got into the car. As he was getting into the car, one person came running. Swamiji, can you teach me about meditation? You fool. Just now the lecture's finished and he's getting into the car to go, and this is the place where you can teach meditation to someone. You have to understand where to ask which question. So that teacher said, come tomorrow morning 7 o'clock when the lecture begins. So you come at 6:30, I'll be there. And then you can ask me the question. That fellow did not turn up. That means that was just a momentary inquisitiveness, but he doesn't want to change himself. A person who wants to change himself, a person who wants to go through the trials and tribulations, he will do whatever it takes. So the divine being, he makes the king, the God of the mind, Indra, you're going to use the word, Indra. He made that Indra wait. And wait. And wait. Normal person will get frustrated and go away. There is nothing there. These hallucinations they must have had. And they will go away. But he waited and waited. And not just waited with, okay. If you are there, you reveal it. Otherwise it's okay. I'm happy. Actually there is nothing. No, he waited with faith that the divine will reveal itself to me. And in that waiting, the consort came. Consort of the divine, she came in a feminine form, the most beautiful form. Anyone can get enchanted by that form. And she looked at him with this eye and that eye. And he did not fall for her also. He said, "Oh mother," immediately, "Oh mother, please tell me who was that being? Who is this mother? This beautiful woman who has come?" Guess? She is the mother scriptures. Who comes? She only has the ability to bring our attention to that which cannot be known without conditionings, which cannot be known through the conditionings. And mind can only function through the conditionings, isn't it? And she comes and says, "Don't worry, He's there inside of you also. He's everywhere." And Indra comes to understand that everything is because of that one power. And his arrogance also is broken. And he comes back. And now all the gods, instead of being arrogant about their victory, are humble. And they attribute the whole victory to that reality, that divine being. In Bhagavad Gita also Krishna says, oh Arjuna's problem is, I will kill my grandfather, I will kill my friends, I will kill my brothers, I will kill my teacher. He says, you will kill? I have already killed them. You will get the glory. Here, same thing is, that same idea is being brought here. That divine being says, everything that happened or is happening or will happen is only because of me, because I alone am. Because you won and everyone is praising you, take the glory, but don't forget that the one which is expressing through you is that infinite. And in this manner, this story brings us to I'm not going to read all the Sanskrit thing, shlokas. In conclusion, he says, and now what I have just told you in the story about the mind, understand this is what is happening in our meditation also. You were talking about it, there is nothing. Someone else was, you have also said. When that empty mind appears, where did that last thought disappear from? Catch that point. With hope. Not hope, with faith. And don't be afraid that there is nothing and that you are going cuckoo. If you think you are going cuckoo, you will go cuckoo at that time, at that moment. Instead, our attention should be on that higher principle. And how we have come to know this? Because we have studied the Upanishads, because so many masters have said it, because so many masters have experienced it. And this story says that Indra saw that and then he waited. And he waited. And the answer came. You must have also all waited some time in your life. So this scripture has come into your life. And other scriptures which talk about the same reality. They will come into your life. As long as you are having faith that there is a reality beyond these conditionings, and which is expressing through these conditionings. A lot of people say, oh, but we want to experience the absolute reality. Absolute reality cannot be experienced. It is impossible. Just like water cannot be brought without a glass, you cannot know the reality which is infinite in nature without conditionings. But where do you catch the reality then? You catch the reality, again I am repeating, in every experience, in every thought, in every emotion, in every interaction. This you have to make into your daily, every moment by moment habit. Where he says, when you come to this point where you are in that gap between the two thoughts. Today our instruction was 3 possibilities. Either you put your attention what is that from where this thought emerged, or the thought is merging back into. Second possibility or practice you could do was remain in the gap between the two thoughts and do nothing, just wait. And the third was that I am the one who's observing and witnessing the presence of Om and absence of Om. So all the presences and all the absences come and go, I am the witness of that. So then who am I? That becomes the exercise and you merge back into yourself. And when this point comes, at that point, from where is this thought arising from? And when you are in the gap, not thinking of anything, not initiating any thought, you are just in that utter silence. Or when you are as that witness and you make that U-turn, again utter silence. At that time, expect nothing, hoping nothing, desiring nothing, wanting nothing. It is at such moments of inner calmness and fully awakened awareness do the yogis come to recognize the Lady of Knowledge, Mother Shruti. What do you mean by Mother Shruti, Lady of Knowledge? No, what she is indicating. The Mother Shruti, Shruti means these scriptures, the Vedas, they are in words. And we recognize, because she said, yeah, that is the that is the reality. She also cannot put words to that reality. And in this way, recognize your own essential nature. Sa brahmeti hovacha brahmano va etad vijaye mahidhyameti tato haiva vidach chakara brahmeti. The teacher says, the preceptor, Brahman, she exclaimed, indeed, through Brahman's victory have you gained greatness. Then alone he understands that the adorable spirit was Brahma, who he had a glimpse, but he vanished. So we can get the glimpse, but it will never remain, because immediately after that the ideas come, the thoughts come, or nothingness comes. And in this, therefore, she says, therefore these gods, Agni, Vayu and Indra, that is fire, air and the god of the mind, excel the other gods, for they approach the spirit, the manifestation of the Supreme, the nearest, and they were the first to know him as Brahman. See, smell, taste, what are the five senses? Seeing, hearing, touching. See, by touch we cannot reach the truth. By smell we cannot reach the truth. By speech we can reach, because speech can take you to the threshold and you, for example, you use the word Om, syllable Om, it takes you to the threshold and you drop that. And where it ends, there the reality begins. Not there, this way, wherever it is. Then the second is air. This is called Pranopasana. Ramana Maharishi used to say, Pranabandhanat liyate manaha. It's a famous verse. What is Pranabandhanat? That when the in-breath becomes the out-breath, or the out-breath becomes the in-breath, that juncture, you merge your mind in that juncture. And that's what we are practicing. When we say, observe your breath, you are just observing the breath, in, out, in, out, in, out. Don't interfere with it. A moment will come where there is neither in nor out, and you remain. And the third is the mind. Mind is thoughts. So behind every thought also you can catch that reality. And therefore indeed Indra excels other gods, for he approached the spirit nearest and he was the first to know him as Brahman. Why? Because the air god, the wind god, or the wind god and the fire god, the water god, all these different gods cannot function, meaning their expressions are what? These are potentialities. These potentialities expressed through the five senses. The five senses have got no purpose of their own. They need the mind which expresses through them. And therefore the God of the mind is the greatest, and he has the ability to come to the threshold and experience the truth first hand. Why? Because all others are limited. Through this story we have seen, the fire came back, the wind came back. The wind god came back. And this is the last chapter. And it's the Yadetad Vidyuto Vid Vyad Yudata Itinya Mimishada Ityadidaivatam. This is the description of Brahman, description by means of an illustration. He shone forth like the splendor of the lightning. He disappeared within the twinkling of an eye. This is the comparison of the Brahman with reference to the Devas, his manifestation as cosmic powers. Just like the lightning that comes in the sky, it appears for a moment and it vanishes after that. And you are at wonder about that lightning. Similarly, see, this yaksha means, how should I put it? That which is there and not there. So now you take it more personally. Sometimes certain thoughts come, certain emotions come, they come for some time and then they go away. You are looking at someone and suddenly you say, oh, how must have she looked when she was 20 years old? And then that thought goes away. Suddenly I am looking, while talking to you, I am looking at this camera, and then thought comes and again it goes away. Fraction of a second. So many things are coming in the mind for a fraction of a second and going away. You are listening to me, but again and again many different distractions are coming for a fraction of a second and going away. Isn't it? From where are they coming? And where are they going? Similarly, the reality also reveals itself just like that and then goes away. And when does it reveal itself just like that? Just for a moment and then goes away. When? Between every thought. How many thoughts you have now? Think. Start counting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. How many thoughts do you have? Zillions, isn't it? So how many opportunities do you have to catch the reality? Zillion minus 1. I'm talking from relative standpoint. Because between every two thoughts, the reality is expressing itself. Behind every thought, the reality is expressing itself. In fact, reality is the substratum because of which all expressions and non-expressions are taking place. So he says, Athadhyatmam yatetad gacchati vacha manaha anena chaidad upasmaratya bhikshana sankalpaha. Now, as regards this description from the point of view of his manifestation as Atman within the body, as one thinks of Brahman by the mind and as speedily as the mind wills. So the more you have, mind has only one habit, and that habit is to think. Choice you have to make what to think about. Are you thinking about the world, or are you thinking about that which cannot be thought about? That choice you have to make. The more you keep thinking about that which cannot be thought about, where the thoughts cannot reach, you are accessing the infinite power, energy, grace that is always yours. And for that, what do you have to do? Now the exercise is given. Tadha tadvanam nama. The verse says, Brahman is well known as Tadvanaha, the one who is to be worshipped as the Atman of all living beings. So it is to be meditated upon as Tadvanaha. All love him who know it thus. Meaning, now don't consider that this reality which cannot be thought about is only one per person. It is the same Atman, the conscious principle within, which cannot be thought about, is this one principle which is expressing in and through every being. And now the techniques of self-perfection is given in 2 or 3 verses. The student says that, "Sir, please teach me the saving knowledge." Arey, what I have been talking for last so many things. Please tell me the Upanishad. Yeah, here the word says, Upanishadam bo bruhiti oktata Upanishada. He says, please teach me the Upanishad. So the teacher says, what I have been talking for all this time. But here the teacher also understands that the student is not asking out of ignorance. You have been listening to these type of thoughts in the last retreat and the previous retreat and twice a week when you come to the classes, some of you. Same idea repackaged again and again is presented to you. Isn't it? Why don't you get tired? Why don't you get disgusted listening to it again and again? Because this idea is talking about who you really are. There is an intense attraction to this knowledge. Naturally it is expressing through us. So the student has come to understand, because he already said, it is that reality which I know, yet I know that I don't know. So the teacher knows. And now suddenly after the story he is saying, please tell me the Upanishad. The teacher understands. I do the same thing with my teacher or any other teacher I come across. I ask the question, not that I don't know the answer, but you want to listen to it from another person. Because what is the system? Shravanam. Reality has to be listened from a teacher, not read from a book. So whenever I am in the presence of a teacher, I will ask some questions. Swamiji, please tell me, this is the thing. It's not a doubt, but sincerely you are asking and seeing how does he look at life. How does he look at something? And a new way is discovered and suddenly your mind gets transported to that point. So here the student is asking, that is not enough. I want to know more. What is Upanishad? Meaning, don't stop now. I want to continue. When we are studying in ashram after 2 years, no days off. No days off and 2 years. Here you only, 12 people and you have to wash dishes. There we had to wash dishes for 150 people every breakfast, lunch, dinner. That was the tapas that our teacher made us put through. No other students in that ashram ever did dishwashing. But we had to do it. We had to scrub the roads. We had to do the gardening. He did not leave. He was a hard taskmaster. One day they were having that machine which shines the marble. You put water and it keeps rotating, and all that water with the marble came onto the road. And he was coming to the class. He says, "Sorry, that looks very dirty. I think it needs to be clean. I'm going for 2 days for lectures. When I come back, I hope it is clean." He just said this. It means we have to do it. And other Swamis came, and the head of the organization said, "Why are you making them wash dishes? Is that what a student should do? They should concentrate on the knowledge." He says, "Leave them. I know what I'm doing." But because of that, the point that I'm trying to make, in spite of all this, after 2 years, sitting like this for 1.5 hours, 6 times a day, we have just done it for 1.5 days, 6 times a day for 2 years without a day off. At the end, when it was concluding, none of us wanted to leave. We couldn't get enough. It was like nectar to our ears, this knowledge of the self. You want someone to keep telling the stories one after the other, isn't it? And we said, "No, Swamiji, we want to continue. Swamiji, when are you conducting next course? Can I come and join the next course so I can sit and, this time I won't have to write notes and I'll just sit and listen to this, to all that what you have said again. That is the feeling. That is why you are all able to sit and persevere through this whole thing. It's not because you are forced here, because your mind is enjoying listening to itself. Mind is enjoying that knowledge that is being presented. It's a joy. Because everybody likes themselves the most. And what is the teacher speaking? About you, the self. What are the scriptures speaking? About you, the self. We don't like a person who comes and starts boasting like that Indra and wind god and fire. I am the greatest. You will not stand in that conversation for too long. But we are also having conversation here. I am talking. For 2 days I am talking. Scriptures are talking for eternity. But what are they talking about? They are also using language. But what is that language? It is that language which directs our attention to ourselves. That's why we love it. Because we love ourselves the most. So the student says, please tell me the Upanishad. So the teacher understands that this fellow his cup is not full yet. He still wants more. He's now hooked. So what do we give? So the teacher says, Brahmi Vavata Upanishad Brumeti. The teacher says, the saving knowledge has been imparted to you. Verily, we have imparted the saving knowledge of Brahman to you. There is nothing more to be said. There is nothing more to be worked out. Whatever has to be known, you have known. Because he's already tested the student and found out whether he has come to know or not. This is everything that has to be known has been told to you. So here he says, the student. Now the teacher says, Tasya tapodama krameti pratishtha veda sarvangani satyamayatanam. He says now that because the student was asking, please tell me something, the teacher has to reply something. So he says, okay, I'll tell you by doing what are the various practices, not just the best practices bring the attention to the self. But how many of us are here whose attention stabilizes on the self? How many of us are here who are able to stabilize in that empty mind and not initiate a thought? So he says, for that to happen, tasya tapodama krameti pratishtha. He says, austerity, restraint and dedicated work. These are the foundations of it. The saving knowledge of the Upanishads. The Vedas are the limbs and the truth is its abode. Austerity means at a physical level. We have to learn to endure all the opposites that the world is throwing at us. At the level of body, what are the opposites? Comfort, discomfort. What is another? Hunger and thirst. Heat and cold. So these are the opposites. Don't get too serious about and react in your mind to all these opposites. Instead, what you should do, whatever is now the sun is out, oh what a wonderful sunshine. Before it was raining, how beautiful the sound of the rain was. Find beauty in everything that the world is throwing at us at the physical level. Then the second comes restraint. Then at the sensory level and the mental level, practice restraint. Everything that is coming in your perception doesn't mean that you have to go after it. A child, if you give him something, you see the small children playing. For one moment they'll play with this toy and then throw and then catch another one, and then he wants to play, then he wants to then I want food, and then suddenly he's laughing, then he's 5 minutes he's sleeping, then again he gets up. Continuously the drama is going on. Because he wants variety to keep the mind busy. Just because on the TV we have seen an advertisement. doesn't mean that we have to go and buy that thing. Just because we have seen, heard from someone that, that particular movie is a good movie, doesn't mean that we have to go and see that movie. And so on. So many stimuli are coming into our being, into our mind. Now the bird is making noise. Suddenly, I don't know, which bird is this? Let me go and find out. Why waste time? So don't run after every stimuli. Shift your attention to the one because of whom knowledge is taking place or the thought is coming. So here he says, keep your mind under restraint. How do you keep the mind under restraint? If the mind is not kept under restraint, the mind will naturally, we are born that way, that the mind continuously leaks out into the world. And therefore, that Krishna, Arjuna and the chariot picture is there in the Bhagavad Gita. The mind can be restrained, the senses can be controlled, the stage of pratyahar can be brought about only when the intellect is thinking about the infinite or some God which represents the infinity. Then the mind and the senses automatically get restrained. Some people who do not have faith in the God or they have more faith in their abilities, they do the asanas, they do the pranayamas, they do the imaginary exercises. Don't get caught up in all that. Krameti pratishtha. And then he says that, and dedicated work. Whatever your life is presenting you in any situation, here you are students, be a good student. Here you are a teacher, be a good teacher to the best of your ability. That's all you can do. That attitude is more important. Then you are a driver, be the best driver there can be. Then you are a husband, be a best husband. You are then a son, be a best son. There is only one personality we see. Krishna is called Purna Purusha, complete person. Whatever role Krishna has played in his life, like a perfect actor, he has excelled in every role. And excellence in every role comes when you are not attached to that role. He was the best son, he was the best father, he was the best husband, he was the best diplomat, he was the best warrior, he was the best brother. Everything best. And that is why, because he was the best at everything. Why? Because he was not attached to any role that he was playing. Then what was he attached to? To that infinite reality. And therefore, at the end of Mahabharata, when the Pandavas, they have all won the war, and Ashwatthama, the Pandavas' guru's son, he is fighting from the baddie's side. And he comes to know that this has happened, and he shoots a particular arrow, missile, which will go and kill the child in the womb of the grand in Arjuna's daughter-in-law's womb, Uttara's womb. And the Pandavas were going to rule for some time, and then they will go. But who is going to be the next person who will take care of the kingdom? That was the only child. All other children of all the Pandavas were dead in the battle. And she prays. She doesn't pray to her husband. She prays to Krishna. Krishna, please come and help. Krishna, Krishna. The moment that arrow comes and hits her, and Krishna immediately, he comes. And he makes a statement. If I have lived a life of dispassion, if I have lived a life of non-attachment, if it is true that I have not taken the side of the Pandavas or the Kauravas, If I have lived a life without giving any special preference to all my 16,000 wives, let this child come back to life now. And the child comes back to life. Only such a person can make that statement. And that potential is there in every one of us. We have to invoke it. And that invocation only happens when we live a life of dispassion. Now, I began the lecture day before yesterday that spiritual unfoldment. How do you know you are spiritually unfolding? The first expression of spiritual unfoldment is dispassion in life. You are not interested in anything. You will do your roles perfectly, but don't be interested in anything. You are doing it because that is the right thing to do. See? So live in that manner. Tasyai tapodama krameti pratishtha veda sarvangani mat satyamayatanam. He says the saving knowledge of the Upanishads, the Vedas are its limb and the truth is its abode. Veda sarvangani. Vedas we understand. Sarvangani, the total body. The inside and outside, the Vedas are nothing. Satyam ayatanam. Ayatana is the place of where a person lives. And where does the Satyam ayatanam, where does the Satya, the truth live? Yes, you will say, oh, it lives everywhere. But if everywhere was not there, then where will it live? It is self-existing. It doesn't require anything to prop it up. But where can you catch it? The best place is in the scriptures. That is where. Veda sarvangani. That means you can, the abode of the truth is the Vedas. Recognize this. And study the Vedas. Expose yourself to the Vedas again and again. And in this manner, the conclusion. Another meaning of Satyamayatana means the abode of the truth is truth itself. We also say that the Vedas are themselves are the truth. Vedanta, when we say, Vedanta doesn't mean any word. So in India we have a word, you must have heard, Akalmand. Akalmand you have heard? No. Akal means intelligence, Mand means non-existing. So, Akalmand, the word technically means the one who has got no intelligence, stupid. But in India what they use this word for? The one who is intelligent. Sorry, what intelligent person you are, huh? So you will say, Arey, ye to bahut akalmand hai. That means and you are using the word akalmand. Literally the word means no intelligence at all. But you are using it for a person who is intelligent. Contradiction. So this truth, what is its abode? The only abode of the truth is truth itself. You cannot find some other thing or place or time or object or conditioning or attribute or quality to prove the truth. It is impossible. It is self-existing. It is self-illuminating. It is self-conscious. And because it is self-existing and self-conscious, therefore it is bliss. Verily, he who knows it thus, destroys sin and is established in Brahman, the boundless, the highest and the blissful. Yes, he is established in it. The teacher is reiterating it again and again, that a one who has come through this process and come to know with this understanding What is the understanding? Again we repeat. What is the understanding? He knows it is, and yet he knows that he doesn't know that it is. That was the one. Because at the level of mind, we cannot come to cognize it. And this way, to know Brahman is to become Brahman. When the salt doll wants to know the ocean, it becomes the ocean. When the river wants to know the ocean, the beloved, it starts from thousands of kilometers away, traverses that distance, and once it merges into the ocean, then it loses its identity and is known as ocean alone. Same way, when we merge into our own essential nature, a person who comes to realize his self becomes the self. Then there is no other identity or possible for such a person. And in this way, this text gets concluded again with the invocation mantra. Repeat after me. Om Sahana Vavatu. Om Sahana Vavatu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Sahanau Bhunaktu. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Sahaviryam Karavavahai. Tejasvinava. Tejasvinava. Dhitamastu. Dhitamastu. Mavid Vishavahai. Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Why we have concluded with this verse? Because knowledge is possible only when we expose ourselves to a teacher. And I have given you the definition of guru. There are 4 gurus in our life express. And we must have faith in all of them. First is the God principle. Second is the scriptures, which the Vedas. The third is the physical teacher who comes into our life, who is able to present the thought processes that are given in the scriptures, which take us to the reality. In our language, he is able to put it forth to us. And the third, if you don't have the 3 before, at least you must have the faith in yourself, in your own ability. Because if you have faith in your own ability, automatically that will bring you to these other 3. And this way, never ever, and this Guru principle, which is the infinite truth, it is all pervasive. It is expressing as these 4. It expresses as the God, it expresses as the teacher, it expresses as the scriptures, and it is expressing as the inner ability to understand the reality, knowing fully well that it cannot be understood. So that intuitive ability is also nothing but because of that Guru principle. And therefore, Sahana Vavadu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavahi, Tejasvinavadhitamastu, Mavid Vishavahai. Why? Why do I need this, what do you call, this invocation mantra again? That may we be friendly to each other, may we not fight with each other, may we be protected from each other, may we understand each other. Why this is required? You find out how many times you have tried to think about yourself and how many times you have been distracted from it. See? Because the Guru principle, we just said, it is expressing every moment between every 2 thoughts. But how much time have you spent contemplating on that? How long have you been able to stay with it? Even though it is available in plenty, all the time, you cannot escape it. But how much time have you spent in its grace? As it. And therefore, so that our mind comes to surrender at this divine principle, which is the source of the mind, because of which the mind is able to be mind. This prayer is said, and Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. These three Shantis, they pacify the three forces by ways of which obstacles come into our life. The first obstacle is the forces that are out of our control. That is the earthquakes and lightnings and deluge and fire and etc. And the second is the obstacles that we have control over, but we don't exercise the control. Like you have diabetes and you should not eat sweets. It's in your control, but you eat sweets. What can you do? So may that also be pacified. And the third, from the diseases and all that thing that are expressing all the time, may they also be pacified, because only in a healthy body will we have a healthy mind which is able to contemplate on the truth. Because if the disease is there, the mind is continuously thinking about the diseases. It is preoccupied with that. It has got no free time to think about the reality. So may these three, the Adi Daivik, the Adi Bhautik and the Adhyatmik, may these three obstacles be pacified. So peace, peace, peace and Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. And with this we have in last 1.5 hours completed more than half the Upanishad. But the idea has been communicated, and may we continue the study of the Upanishads again and again. Never think that you have known now, so no need to study Upanishads. Because understand, the day you say I have known and I don't need to study Upanishads, we are still caught up in the web. We have not known. So continue till it becomes a natural state. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Hari Om. Once again, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I have never talked about this topic and this Upanishad before in this manner. So, without you, I wouldn't have been able to contemplate on it. So, my prostrations to you all. Without you all, I wouldn't have the opportunity.